Hello everyone, this is Brian Lagunas and thanks for joining me in the seventh video of our multi-part series on building IG Outlook. In the last video, part 6, we wrapped up the majority of our infrastructure by adding support for ribbon tabs inside of a ribbon control. And in this video, we're going to go ahead and add another module. We're going to walk through the process of adding a new module to the IG Outlook application to see how, with the infrastructure we put in place, how easy it is to extend and add functionality to our application. So we're going to start off with the Silverlight application first. We're going to go ahead and right-click the modules folder in the Silverlight project. We're going to add a new Silverlight class library. We want to make sure we put this in the correct location, which is in the modules folder under the Silverlight on disk. I'm going to name this IG Outlook modules contacts.sl. Okay, we're going to Silverlight 5. First thing I'm going to do, I'm going to delete that class. I'm going to go ahead and open up my properties. And the assembly name isn't super important, but the default namespace is. We want to make sure we remove the .sl off the default namespace. Now I want to add some references. I'm going to browse. I'm going to make sure we're on our Prism and Unity for Silverlight. We're also going to need a reference to our projects. Actually, we're just going to need a reference to the infrastructure project for Silverlight. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and create a couple of new folders. One for our images, one for our menus, and one for our views. Of course, if we're dealing with a module here, we need to add a new class. We're going to call this Contacts Module. And of course, this is going to derive from our module base and our infrastructure class there. We need our constructor. Alright, now that we have a module with a class in there that says this module is a module, in fact, we're going to go to our bootstrapper. And in this case, we're just going to add a reference to the contacts module we just created. And in the bootstrapper, catalog.add module, type of contacts module. Okay, so now what's going to happen is if we try to build this, it worked there, but if we try to build on the WPF side, we're going to get an exception here. And that's because we don't have this module on the WPF side. So, to make sure we're on the up and up here, we're going to add a new project for the WPF. It's Windows. We're going to make it a WPF user control library. It's going to be on the WPF side under modules. We're going to call this IG Outlook modules contacts. Alright, going to delete this user control. We're going to need our references for WPF, which is Prism and Unity. We're also going to need our infrastructure. All right, now let's go ahead and add our folders. We had an images folder, the menus folder, and a views folder. Now we're going to go ahead and add an existing item. We want to go to Silverlight, Modules, Contacts. We're going to do our little trick where we add as link. Now that we have that on the WPF side, I actually need to go and add our reference to contacts. And if you haven't noticed yet, I actually upgraded to Visual Studio 2012. So when you create a project in 2012, it defaults to 4.5. I just forgot to go into the contacts module we created and change that back to the profile we're working with. So now when I build this, we get a successful build. And it says we're not getting a successful build, and why is that? That is because for some reason that was placed in the wrong location. So now we have a successful build. Okay, great. So let's go back up to our Silverlight contacts module, and we'll go ahead and we'll add a new view to it. It's going to be a user control. So we'll go to Silverlight, user control, and we'll just call this contacts view. Now we're not going to put anything fancy in here. We're just going to go ahead and put a text block that just says contact view, no big deal. Okay, we're done with that. Now let's go to our WPF side. We're going to go ahead and add an existing item. Go to the Silverlight, Modules, Contacts, Views. We want all files, select both of them, add as link. So now we're sharing that entire view. Now I just noticed something. When I shared this view across from Silverlight to WPF, in Visual Studio 2012, it did not automatically link these for me. So up here in the Silverlight side, I have a little arrow I can drop down and see the C# file. In this version here on the WPF, when I shared those two files and I linked them, it's actually coming over as two separate files. They're not linked. I don't have the arrow. In Visual Studio 2010, that worked properly. It would bring it over as a single file. I would have my arrow, I would bring it down, and you would see the corresponding CS file. So I will consider this a bug in Visual Studio 2012, and it looks quite annoying. So just to make sure that when I hit view code, okay, at least it goes to the code behind, so we shouldn't run into any issues sharing this view. Of course, if we do, I guess we'll find out rather quickly. Close down our bootstrapper. Okay, now that we're back inside of our contacts module, so this is going to be the Silverlight version, we need to register our types. And in this case, we're going to register the view for navigation. So we're going to say container dot register type for navigation contacts view. course, we're going to have our using statement. Great. So now what we need is our navigation area, right? Our Outlook group. And that's going to be underneath the menus here. So I'm going to go ahead and right click. I'm going to add a new item. It's going to be Silverlight User Control. We'll name this, I don't know, how about Contacts Group. All right, we have our Contacts Group. Now what I want to do is go to our toolbox, and we're going to be in the 12.2. We're going to look for the Outlook bar group. I'm just going to drag this over to our design surface and then delete it. I mainly did that to get the using statement in here. Okay, so now I can go ahead and delete what's inside here. I'm going to go IG Outlook bar group. Don't forget to close it off. Let's go to the code behind. And this is actually an Outlook bar group. And it's going to implement Outlook bar group from our infrastructure. It's going to implement that. Our default navigation path is, remember, this is the view that's going to be the default view for when we navigate to a group. So we're actually going to return type of contacts view dot full name. This is the navigation path. And we'll go ahead and clean some of this up. All right. So now the Outlook bar group, or the contacts group, we need a header. So header equals, we'll say contacts. Now we're going to need some icons, some images, right? So what we're going to do is we're actually going to copy over some images. So I'm just going to open this up, and I'm going to open this up inside of our file explorer here, and I have some images that I'm going to copy over. Show all files. Go ahead and include them. Awesome. So what that allows me to do is to save some time. I have a little code snippet already. I'm going to copy over our images. Now we want to check the images to make sure they're set as a resource. Do not copy, looks good to me. So what we'll want to do is take these images and go to the WPF module, add existing item, make sure we're in our contacts, images, and we'll go ahead and link to those guys. Once again, make sure they're not, make sure the resources, do not copy, looks good. Alright, just for giggles, let's do a build. Awesome. Now the next thing we need to do, we need to go to the contacts module, that's CS again, this is the module class. And on the overrid and resolve Outlook group, we're going to say, hey, region manager, regions, region name, add our using here, This is the outlook bar group region we're going to inject to. Add container.resolve of T contacts group. So basically what we're saying here is whenever the module is initialized, we're going to add our contacts group into the outlook bar group region. Let's go ahead and do a build. Awesome. You know, I'm just curious. Let's go ahead and try to run this. And here's our contacts group. So now we navigate to the contacts group and we have our contact view injected. Navigate away, navigate back. Okay, well that's pretty cool. We got the Silverlight side done. What about the WPF? Let's make sure our WPF version works. And it won't. Let's see why. That's because we need to bring the menus for the contacts group over to the module. Now we can't share the contacts group because the Infragistics toolset for WPF and Silverlight don't share a common Outlook group control, right? Outlook bar control. So we're going to go ahead and add a new user control to the WPF module. We'll call this the same thing, contacts group. Go to our toolbox. We can't use the shared. We have to use this one here. So we're looking for the Outlook bar. So we'll just delete that. Remember, I just wanted the namespace put in there for me. Get rid of that. This also handles the images a little different. Once again, I have the snippets over, so I'm just going to copy those over here. And we probably need a header. This is contacts. Okay, once again, let's go to the code behind. This is the Outlook bar group. Outlook bar group. And once again, this is going to be the same implementation as we did on the Silverlight side. Okay, so now let's see what happens when we run the WPF. There we go. There's our group, and when we navigate to it, it works as expected. Great. So we have both the WPF and the Silverlight module working so far, the contacts module. So the last step we have is the ribbon tabs. So I'm going to close these groups here. And I'm going to go up to the Silverlight side under menus. Now I'm going to add a new item. Once again, so user control. I'll just call this, I don't know, home tab works for me. Add. And once again, we can't do the shared. We have to do the Silverlight version because once again, the WPF and Silverlight do not share a common ribbon control. So, and actually, remember that we have our own derived ribbon, So we need to add a namespace to our infrastructure project. Okay. And this is where we're going to type our INF ribbon tab item. Make sure we delete that. Paste that in there. And we have a header we need to deal with. We'll call this contacts home tab for giggles. Let's go to our code behind. And technically we don't even need that, so we'll just get rid of that. Do some cleanup and call it good. Great, so there's our tab for the Silverlight side. So in order to get this tab to show up, what's that mean? Well, what do we have to do to get that ribbon tab to show up is what I meant to say. Well, we need to go to our view, and remember we created that cool little attribute. It's called the ribbon tab attribute. Remember that? So we can just say type of home tab. And now we have associated that ribbon tab with that view. So once again, we need to go to our WPF version of this and do the exact same thing. I'm going to right click, add a new user control. I'm going to call it home tab. Once again, we need to add a namespace for infrastructure because that's where our ribbon tab item exists. INF ribbon tab item. Don't forget our header. Which is contacts home tab. Go to the code. It's not a user control. Go ahead and fix that. Come back here. Oh, for some reason we're having a build error right here. Is that just Visual Studio messing with me, or do we have something wrong here? Okay, let me take a look. Oh, that's probably because we need to add a reference to our ribbon tab, the Infragistics one. So let's go here, throw the WPF ribbon over, let the references get added, and now we can add our header back. There we go. Build this project, build succeeded. So let's run the Silverlight version. So when I click on contacts, we did not have our tab show up. Very interesting. Let's take a look. So let's go to our view. And what do? Ah, I see the issue. We missed a step. We forgot to derive from view base. Totally forgot to do this when we created our view. So, what's that mean? It means we need to go back into our XAML. We need to add a namespace for our infrastructure. INF view base. Alright, now we're sharing this view across the WPF module. So we shouldn't have to do anything there. Let's go back. Let's run the Silverlight version. And it still didn't show up. This is not looking good. So, once again, We're going a little too fast. I also forgot to put the IA region manager on here because it needs an instance of the region manager. And then we need to pass this to our base implementation. Alright, third time is the charm. Let's run this. Now the expectation is we click on contacts. Hey, there's our ribbon tab. Alright, we finally got everything hooked up just right. So let's check our WPF version. And now we have a build error, so let's check this out. Okay, so we have a ambiguous reference here. So let's do IG outlook.infrastructure.viewBase. Here's the WPF version. Contacts, there's our tab. Wonderful. And of course, the rest of the app works as expected as well. Alright, now most of you might be thinking, Brian, why don't you just edit this to make it look like you had it all down packed? Well, this video just shows the process you're going to go through when you start adding modules and you have a infrastructure in place and you're going to forget things, and this is the stepping stones of adding a module. Just work through the issues you get, and before you know it, you have your module up and running. So thanks again, and I hope to see you in the next video.